Here where the air comes in, it's an oxidizing zone that'll give you an erratic heat, usually burns the end off of whatever you're putting down in there, gives you a lot of scale also. The next zone is where you've got a perfect mixture of fuel and oxygen, okay, and that's your neutral zone. That's where you're going to really have the best heat. You want to encourage that zone in this particular forge to increase in depth so that you can lay your iron horizontally through it. The very top, which would be the crust over the top, would be more of a carbonizing zone. You get a lot of soot and a lot of buildup of tars in that zone. There are only two sides on these tapers. Just a short taper. I need, where's this? Now,
that 20 pound?
That was probably a 12.
The weight of the hammer is directly related to the amount of velocity that you need to produce the same amount of force. So if you take, for me, I hurt myself using a lighter hammer and a lot of velocity. Hurts my elbow, hurts my shoulder. So I tend to use a heavier hammer with less velocity. And it's not anything about being macho, it's about what's comfortable for you.
I have a problem holding on to the heavy hammer. Just my grip.
We've got a pretty good fire going here. This incorporates a taper, shouldering, drawing out along the axis of the bar and spreading across the bar. So this is a pretty good exercise. So the first thing you would do is you would take and do a short taper. Then you would take and isolate and then draw out. About 2/3 of what you want to end up with. And then you have your mash at the end for your, already I'm out of heat. My hand was getting hot. Half-inch holes. Okay, now we're starting to show signs of need to push our cook into the center, opening a void for our coal to slide into. Okay. Shake her down a little bit. And now's where you got to kind of take care not to develop a burned off stem. this is a good warm-up exercise. You can use a rounding hammer or a flat square-faced hammer or a very dull cross beam, which is what I prefer. I usually get my first spread with the flat, and then I finish it with the cross beam. We got our good and hot then, and that's what you don't want to have. Okay. And you see you can take and get it to the point where it's so thin. Doesn't take too much to twist it off. Okay, let's try this again. Got that just a little too hot, didn't it? One of the things about the steel that we have today is it's all recycled. So sometimes you'll wonder, you'll be doing everything right and you'll wonder, I had it too hot, that stem was too far into the fire. Sometimes you'll wonder to yourself, why did it break here? Why did it crack here? And it's because homogenizing the steel, when they're running it through the process, takes just a little bit longer, and to get that good mixture of, say, a Ford bumper and a axle out of a international harvester tractor, you know, sometimes they have a little problem with that. Most of the steel is from overseas. Okay, so I'm going to shoulder this down. Okay. Then see, as I draw that out, I'm drawing it out a little bit at a time with the edge of my hammer and the edge of the anvil. Now, theoretically, you could take, still got a little color showing there, using the cross peen. Use your left hand to steer how you want that iron to go.
There you go.
So, we still got just a little heat. You're real careful to get down close. Not a bad idea to have one of these guys in your toolbox so that you can get a little bit closer to something without having to worry about whacking it with a hammer. You know, you can get right in there close to that shoulder there without messing it up. Now what I want to do is take and work that stem out just a little bit further. I'm going to call out maybe 1.5 heats.
Looking for the naked colonials.
This crust on the top is desirable as long as you have a way of getting your iron in and out of it, you know. Working with tongs you can pick a pair of tongs like these that you can grip it from the side. These are bolt tongs. You have a hole here for like something that, say, a bolt head, and you can grip it from the end. And the nice thing about these is you can go a round stock or square stock. They don't work real well with flat. Back and forth, just on that one edge, using this radius here on your hammer. You could do a cross peen, okay, or just a flat blow, but I think you're getting more efficiency if you use a kind of an angle blow using the edge of your hammer. And then we want to crisp up that. If you have a helper, you can get them to hold it for you, or you can use something like this cleaver tool. Just crisp up those last few fractions. Now when you're getting rid of hammer mark rather, in a darker heat, just when you start losing color, that's when you can get rid of most of your hammer marks. And you can see I'm using the edge of this anvil, the horn of the anvil with a flat blow, not the edge, to get in there to round that up. So that's not a very thin leaf. That's a man's leaf.
Yeah, I have a good one.
My wife would be very upset now.
Oh, gee.
So now I want to cut this off, so I need to protect my stem. You've seen what will happen to it. I'm going to push it all the way through to the other side of the fire pot. And try to kind of keep an eye on it. So I can heat up the end of that stem and then cut it off. Our hardies should be crowned just like your hammer, face of your hammer. Should have a little bit of a crown to it. That way you won't be digging in. This one here has a real sharp edge on both ends here, and you'll dig into your iron sometimes by getting too far down. Pretty good airflow. Okay, there's a good indication I'm not in far enough. See that stem is hot, but the thicker piece isn't, so I'm going to go a little bit further across to protect that stem. If you guys use a propane forge, I think some of the instructions just backwards. Okay, here we go. Here is a good pair of tongs for propane. This is also a 1/2 inch, okay? But you can see how much longer the handles are. When you're working with a propane, the tendency for that heat is to blow right out at you. Now you can shut it off, but it's still pretty hot. All the heat's coming out that door, not going up the chimney like with this. So when you're buying tongs or making your own tongs, try to make them according to what you're going to be using. I make them longer. I can always take and cut them off. Alright, now the placement of my steel is just about right. You can see this is starting to heat up, not the stem. Now I can cut that off without. Good review, hammer control, heat management. So when we get to the forge welding, you'll have a little bit of practice behind you. Okay. Usually you want your rag to be in the center or off to one side. Try to collect that rag in one spot so when you rasp it off, it'll be easier to do. And then you can just break that off. Alright, but if somebody's going to have to use tongs,